it get a little chilly in here?
Oh, not to me.
Okay. See, look. I have a fallen mic. Fallen feet. Fallen mic.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Pagitt Radio, broadcasting live out of the Twin Cities on Wednesday afternoon, the 10th of October. Hi, Victoria. Normally, we're broadcasting out of the Twin Cities live on Wednesday mornings, but not today.
Nope.
Today, we are broadcasting live out of the Twin Cities on Wednesday afternoon because I was traveling, and I was going to be doing this show live from North Carolina.
What happened?
That was the plan. Well, some of the interviews I was going to do didn't come together, and then flights became an issue, and so I
thought you just wanted to do it with me.
I just stuck. Yeah.
Me.
Well, you can tell yourself that story. That's fair enough, because I would have had to do it without Victoria. But now we've turned into something that's going to be basically like The View around here today. It's ridiculous. It's like Doug and the Women. It's turning into my marathon running experience. That's what it's turning into.
All the chicks.
Me running with all the girls.
You're gonna tell us about
I will tell you. I think I'll talk about the marathon a little bit, and I'll let people know about it. But I do want to let the listeners know that we're going to be joined by Carla Barnhill in just a moment. Carla Barnhill is our advice guru, and we're going to check in with her in her teaching responsibilities. She is a professor at the university, Bethel University, and
she's squeezing us in.
Is in between classes.
Does that mean she's going to correct our grammar?
We should ask her about that. We should ask. She's got all kinds of grammar rules. Not only is she the advice guru on this radio show, but she's also a professor there at the university, at Bethel University. But she's my editor, so she's correcting me constantly.
How does that go?
Constantly fixing things. Fine. She doesn't laugh at me anymore. She used to. She used to feel the need to contain her laughter at sometimes my
turns of freight, your Dougisms.
Yeah, or my poor grammar, or my some
sometimes
misspelling or something.
Poor grammar mistakes kind of is like fingerprints. Like they have certain kind of things they do.
Oh, totally. It's like some sort of speech pattern. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for some reason, the literature types, which I know you have a master's degree in literature or poetry, or
yeah,
is it
but
just
I'm
literature?
Not a grammar snob.
Yeah, they're ruthless. They are.
They can be because they're thwarted authors sometimes, I think, and then they're kind of they're.
Oh.
I think a lot of this isn't the case. I wouldn't say with Carla or.
Oh, we should ask her about this. I'm going to say that you've been
But I think in English
her.
departments, there's a lot of frustrated writers, and they kind of take it out sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why some of them are so harsh, and it gets a little hard sometimes. Sometimes they get a little crusty.
Well, and they can take it out on you.
Yeah.
It's not.
They can. It can be an abuse of power.
It's not uncommon.
And people are sensitive about their writing, so you maybe take it a little harder than you might other stuff.
Some people are, but I've realized that if you're not a very gifted writer, like in the way that some people are gifted writers, then
you don't care.
You don't really care, right? Because it's not all that insulting, right? When
that
someone's
happens
like,
to
"Oh,
English
you
teachers
totally
too. They get tired of caring about stuff,
yeah.
and then all
then
these.
You're just like, oh, whatever. Just fix it. Like it's like missing a serve in volleyball, right?
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't mope around the whole time. So, when you get a dumb jock writing books, that's the kind of thing you're gonna run into. So we're gonna call Carla, and then we're gonna be joined by Heather Lynn. Heather Lynn is a musician and a poet. In poetry, your own sort of poetry ways, and she's going to do a little music for us and tell us about some projects she's in. So it's me and Victoria and Carla and Heather Lynn, and this is what I'm getting at. It's starting to turn into. I feel like Regis. like Regis bombed into the on the View. All right, so we're going to give Carla Barnhill a jingle and see if Carla's up for some advice giving. I also asked her if we could check in about what's going on over at the university there at Bethel.
Oh, good.
Which when I went to that school, I went to that.
Hello.
College. And hey, Carla.
Hi, Carla.
I was just telling Victoria that we were going to check in with you. not only on advice guruing, but how things are at the big university now that it's big time university, not just a little old college like when I went there.
No, it's a big time university with an undefeated football team, which is apparently a big thing
Oh.
to the kids for the kids these days.
Really?
So, I mean, they're skipping
Yeah.
more classes because they have to gear up?
You know, they never skip my class.
Of course not.
Tell us who you teach, Carla. What are you teaching the kids up there at the university?
Well, I'm teaching a few things up here at the university. I teach a couple of writing classes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a required writing class, which is fun for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because who doesn't love being forced to write?
I can't think of anyone.
So that's no. So that's fun. And it's mostly freshmen, but I have a few upperclassmen who avoided it and are now having to do it anyway.
Yes.
And
They're always such a...
I don't know if that's the kind of student you might have been at this university.
You know, Carla, you being my editor, my writing editor, I think you're probably keenly aware that it doesn't seem that I took a writing class. Does it? I mean, is there any indication to you at all that I have taken advanced writing?
You know, I don't. I know that it's not really one of your passions. I can tell that.
Okay.
I know that about you. How's that?
I mean, I like conveying ideas, and books and writing is a good way to do that. But all those rules.
Yeah. Did you ever think when you were sitting back here at the big university that you one day would be a book writer?
It truly never crossed my mind one single time. I was completely intimidated by the fact that I would have to read a book from beginning to end.
Great.
That was the
See, and then
that was the scary
Victoria and I, then word nerds that we are, like this is our happy place in classes like this.
part. Yeah.
We read extra books.
Yeah.
So-
What else could I do?
Yeah.
Can I write more than you asked me for?
Yeah. Only a 5-page paper.
Could I have the supplemental reading list? I
on.
read all these already.
I have a lot.
Is it true? Like when you guys were in college, either of you, did you go to classes and be given a syllabus and be like, oh, I've totally read that. I guess I'll read it again. Did that ever happen to you?
Yep.
Never all of it.
But there was some book on the.
Always.
Sure.
See there's the difference right there. Never once. And I went to high school, I went to college, and I went to 4 years of graduate school. Did I ever look at a syllabus or a reading list, and have had the experience of I've already read one of those books.
I remember being
Not
in
a
high
single
school
time.
and we got to read Jane Eyre, and I'd read it like when I was 12, and I was telling all my friends,
Oh,
I
my
can't
gosh.
wait to read Jane Eyre. And they're coming into class. Are you kidding me, Victoria? What's so great about this book?
Oh, we live in a complicated world. What were you going to say,
Well,
Carla?
and I have to confess too. I did also have a number of books on those syllabi that I still haven't read.
Really?
That happens.
Didn't read them then. Haven't read them since.
Are there any of those books that you have then assigned to a student?
No, because of my class, we don't do a lot of fiction reading.
Oh, I see.
We focus on some nonfiction essay things. Yeah.
Well,
my
what's
other
happened?
class that I'm teaching?
Yeah.
Can I tell you my other class
Yeah,
that I'm
please.
teaching is called Introduction to Liberal Arts,
Oh,
and it's an interesting class.
and what's the point of
how
that
to,
class?
It's sort of the how to be a college student class.
Oh,
Like we talk about study skills, and we do the Strengths Finders inventory, and I think I'm gonna have them do the Enneagram though.
yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, a lot of self-knowing, this kind of thing.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's a lot of kind of how do you fit in here? What's your chapter going to be in the big story?
I think the Enneagram is a great idea for them.
Wouldn't that be
It could
fun?
be helpful.
Well, they do the Strengths Finders, and that's fine and good. But
Yeah, that's a nifty one.
I still think the Enneagram's a little stronger. But you know, all of this spending time with these nice young people has had me thinking about a couple of things. Would you like to hear about what they are?
Very much.
Okay. So I think, like I find that most people I know, and I include myself in this, that our self-perception of who we are and what we're about and our value
Yeah.
was kind of shaped in our junior high and high school years, and that college sort of put a cap on it,
Oh.
whether or not it was true or not, and that most of us, I think, have a hard time accepting that what could be up to 20 to 30 years later, that we might not be that same person. That it's possible that who we were when we were 18 was not the end result, was not the finished product.
And then now, in your say mid-40s or late 30s or something, you've now realized, hey, I'm not that person anymore. That was just the start.
But Yeah, that was just the start, and that I don't have to be defined by that narrative. That maybe it's even a bad idea to let that be the defining narrative of my life, who I was then. Because I spend enough time now around 18-year-olds that I see them and I see myself in them often. And it's sort of a daily or at least a thrice weekly reminder of how not that person I am now.
Yes.
And it's been very helpful for me because most of us don't get that experience. You don't get to sort of revisit. I mean, unless you do teach high school or college students where you're sort of repeatedly reminded of how not 18 you are anymore.
Right. I had a similar experience in North Carolina yesterday. I was sitting with graduate students. These were graduate students, and they were referring to themselves as graduate students. And it was dawning on me that, I don't do that. I don't have like some category of my studentness that I see as my identity any longer, right? Like I'm so far from that being the prime way that I understand myself that I sort of had, and this is maybe more my tendency than yours, but I sort of had this patronizing view about that with them, like, oh, that's kind of cute. I guess that's what you think about when you're 22, something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think for so many of us, those years, kind of the, late high school into college, into grad school, those years are such an explosive time of self-discovery.
Right.
That we don't really have the opportunity to have that level of in-depth sort of navel gazing ever again.
Right.
We have a whole world created around you.
Right. And so I think that's good for us. But I think we also kind of miss then the opportunity to revisit all those things. And that's why I think we kind of get stuck in this sort of who I was then is still who I am now. Like that's somehow the core of me. Because I find, like when I talk to moms and I talk to people who are sort of at their midlife crisis point, for a lot of them, the thing that has caused their crisis is they feel like they aren't who they were when they were 23 or 22 or 18. Like that's when I was sort of, I think that's when I really had passion for life. That's when I really knew what I wanted. And I've moved so far away from that now. And I want to get back to that because somehow that seemed pure and right and good. Or even the struggles that you had then somehow seemed more real.
Yeah.
And so I think we forget then that, you've grown a lot. You've probably maybe doubled your life since then. You've added on at least that much time now.
Right. We've all lived longer since that time than we did before that time.
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe you need to take a little reflective time to look at who you are now and let that be a little bit golden. And say, I've learned I'm not who I was then, and that's a good thing.
That these
good
are
that I'm not still that kind of wide open, and
And these are the good old days, like right now. Did you see that movie Midnight in Paris? Midnight in Paris?
No.
You didn't?
Really? Yeah, I think you would like it a lot.
Yeah, Carla, you should see it.
And in that sense, it's not just to Carla, but to all the listeners. Yes, I think Victoria, you've seen it. Yeah, but anyway, it's a Woody Allen film, and this this character ends up going back in time in Paris, and so he's with all these writers and poets and famous people, kind of in this time travel sort of experience that he finds
kind of
rather
the
quirky.
between the wars, Americans in Paris time, 1920s, and he's
the jazz age.
He feels a lot of nostalgia for that time,
and they're all feeling nostalgia for the time just previous to that. So they're all like, Picasso's like, I don't know if I want to live in this time. I would much rather live, in this other time. And he's like, what? This is the golden age. And they're like, oh, this is nothing close to the golden age, But it's sort of a commentary on that very thing, right? That if you keep living with the past being the high point, you just get trapped and can't pay attention to yourself now.
Right. Well, and I just think you get busy, and I think rightfully absorbed in other things besides your own self. But I think for a lot of us, I think again we get to kind of this midlife point, and we feel like we don't have the same level of passion, or we don't have the same level of purpose, or we just don't feel like that. Oh, the world feels big and huge, and I want to go get it. Like we feel like we've lost that fire in our belly, and as though that was the goal all along, was to have that fire in the belly. And I think, in some ways that's great to revisit that and recapture that and figure out sort of remember the conversation we had with Richard Rohr long ago?
Right.
About sort of the second half of life, that's sort of, the first half of life is your busy doing stuff time, and the second half of life is your sort of a little more introspective giving back time.
Yeah.
So I think it is good when we hit this midlife point to stop and think about what do I want the rest of my life to be about, and to take a little bit of navel gazing time, but also to remember that it's not about revisiting who we were when we were 20 years old. It's about who am I now at 46, and what do I have to offer? Because I have more to offer than I did when I was 22.
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly
I have
evolving.
less time to offer it, but I have.
That's right. I better hurry.
You do
much
more in
more
less
of it.
time.
Isn't that the irony that when you're young and you really tend to, if things work out normally, you have much more time, but you're in such a hurry, and now in later and middle aged, you're like, I don't know, I'll get to it, I guess. I'll get around to it. Well, speaking of getting to it, Carla, you have to teach another class in another 10 minutes, don't you? You have another another batch of fresh minds.
More young minds.
Well, Carla, thanks for the good advice. I think that's another job well done, and just know going in today that you're a fine instructor. You're good enough.
Thank you so
You're
much.
smart enough, and these kids are going to like you.
Okay. I'm going to remember, I always have a Doug Pagitt in the back of the room making snarky comments under his breath.
You always got.
If I can reach him, then I've done my job.
You've always got a C- kid in the back that
Just pretend
someday.
that they're pretending to be bored. That's what I like to do sometimes. They're just pretending to be bored. Really deep underneath that, they're listening.
They're not
They are
really
all
bored,
in.
as it turns out. No, they're not.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Carla.
Thank you guys. Have a lovely afternoon, the two of you.
All right,
Thank
dear.
you.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye now.